Like I said, over the past 2.5 years, I've been riding my bicycle around the United States, and that got me in really good shape, since every day was just a challenge. I'm not really a bicyclist, but every day was quite a challenge. And you can check out my my journey is over on Join the Adventure with Scott Batch, where I talk about all kinds of stuff, and you'll see that I'll be adding these surf lessons to that channel as well. So I was in pretty good shape, and when I got back to California, I really wanted to start getting back into the water and paddleboarding and surfing. And so I self-evaluated what's going on. I didn't stop working out, but I was doing things for those 2.5 years. None of that was helping the muscles I need in my legs for paddleboarding, for stability. See, it's like rocking back and forth like that. I need the muscles that prevent from doing that when the waves are super choppy, and for trying to go over and through whitewash. So I knew that I needed my stability muscles back. So that's the self-evaluation part. I knew that I needed some core to keep my core muscles in really good shape, because it's pretty much all this is, core and accessory muscles to go paddleboarding. So I needed that, and I could use some rowing too. Over the last 5 months, I've been coaching my nephew on how to get his cardio up, and also his shoulders, forearms, and triceps a lot stronger, because he rides a motorcycle at a track. He's not racing, but he likes to do these 15-minute sessions at the track with other riders, where they just go all out at their ability. So there's 4 levels where he goes. He was in the 3rd level the first time I saw him on the track, which was 5 months ago, and just happened to be at the very end of my ride, my US tour, and I went there and watched him. And every time he'd finish a session, actually he was having a hard time finishing the sessions, and I asked him what was wrong. He said his heart rate was going so fast, and his arms just felt so weak. And then he asked me if I could help him out, and I told him that it was his fitness that he needed to work on. So he came up with a strategy focused around what he's doing, but what we did to help him has also been helping me, because it's a lot of cardio, some weightlifting, but this is only our first phase of him getting stronger, and we'll see how long he stays with it. The longer he stays with it, hopefully the more hardcore will go. So when I self-evaluate myself for paddleboarding, like I said, I needed to make sure I kept my cardio up, the core, but I needed to get out here and do this, because right now I'm not surfing, I'm just paddleboarding, and this is probably the best thing I can do to get ready for this summer, because if I was out there right now, I'd be falling all over the place and just wasting my time. But by coming out here right now, I'm slowly getting my ankles stronger, my knees stronger, and just even standing on these boards can make your toes get numb, your calves get numb. So I'm working on all that, just being on a board. Eventually I want to be on a board for hours. So that brings me to myself. What would I tell myself if I was starting again when I was 16? So when I was 16, I was playing high school football, and I was in really good shape cardio wise. I was pretty strong, pretty quick, but I didn't have any kind of surfing muscles or paddling ability. So I would have told myself to think about where my weaknesses are. I probably wouldn't even have known. So I would encourage myself, instead of me telling myself everything, I'd say, hey, go do some research, get on the internet, start finding out which muscles you need and what strengths you need for good surfing. Doing that research, I would have found out that I should probably get into yoga, do a lot of swimming, do a ton of cardio, and doing all those things just so that when I first get out and try and stand on a board, that my cardio is up, because your heart is just racing, trying to be out there. And one of the reasons I think that our heart is racing when we're out there trying to surf, because it's not actually that hard, especially if you stay in waist deep water. You're gonna hear me say that word over and over, those words over and over, waist deep water, waist deep water. So I tell myself, hey, just stay in the waist deep water. And eventually, if my 16-year-old self listened to me, he would go out in the winter and at night, because surfing is for the daytime, exercising is for at night, right? That's a surfer mentality right there. So on windy days, rainy days, and night, that's when you work out. Daytime is when you surf. So if my 16-year-old self-evaluated what he needed to do, he would have figured out that his core wasn't that strong. Although he looked really strong, but his core wasn't that strong. Could have used some work, and could use some balance training like yoga, or I think it's called Boku ball weightlifting, and could also use the swimming. So the next thing I would have done, I would have told him to do, is put together a plan. Like, what are you going to do now that you know that you need yoga, swimming, and core? What are you going to do about it? So if I was his coach, I would just, and he could calm down his ego long enough to ask me what to do. I'd say, all right, what I think you should do is, and now this is pretty hardcore, but back then I was all about the challenges. So I would tell myself, I think you should do 2 hours of yoga a day. I'd recommend doing a light yoga at a studio, like a stretching kind of yoga, followed by hot yoga after that. And so I'd take a rest in between, half an hour if I can, but might not be able to because of class schedules. But definitely hydrating throughout that first session, because the second session is going to be brutal. That hot yoga can be brutal, or power yoga, either one. Gosh, those things. I'd never almost passed out in my life because of exercising, but the first time I did a double like that, oh gosh, I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to pass out, because any second I'm going to pass out. But luckily they put us into this one pose to relax for a minute, but if we wouldn't have relaxed, I probably would have passed out. So I tell myself, do 2 hours of yoga every day. Do an hour of, in addition, do an hour of swimming, probably every other day. And between those two, I think I would have been set up for success the first time I went swimming. Now, here's the part that myself would have hated to hear. Hopefully, this all would have started in the winter. Because if it had started in the winter, I'd say, hey, this is the perfect opportunity, because the waves are just going to be just gnarly in the winter. So work out all winter, work out for like 5 or 6 months before you even go step foot in the ocean, and learn all these other things that I'm going to teach you in the first 50 episodes. So learn all those things, work out for 5 months, and then when you get into the water, gosh, you're going to be in such good position to learn how to surf. And it's going to be so much easier because you're also going to hang out in waist deep water, right? And you're going to learn to crush your ego.